Hello and welcome to the first episode of Follow the White Rabbit in My New Home. It's a renovation project, so it's a bit of a mess. So I thought I'd introduce you to my studio, bring you here, as well as introducing my very first guest, Valerie, who I'm delighted to share time with you and her. So you'll see lots more of the Follow the White Rabbit series as I have now sort of found my mettle again and ready to go. And apologies for the background if you find it disturbing in any way. So, Valerie and I have been friends for a while on through groups and through Facebook, and we follow a very similar path. And when we spoke for the very first time last week, Valerie, we discovered how our life paths had been on a similar trajectory for a while. And the reason that I got Valerie here is because she's a new author. And you know that Follow the White Rabbit celebrates authors and artists and all sorts of people. So this is your wonderful book, which I really find very, very useful. It's a journey to emotional well-being. So Valerie, would you like to share a little bit about yourself, please?
Surely. I'm, pardon me, Valerie Crozier-Nicholl. I'm from Northern Ireland, as you might be able to tell by the accent. Um, I had an emotional breakdown that I now call my breakthrough about 6 years ago. Well, 6 years ago, because I've just celebrated my sixth business anniversary. And the business wasn't always like this. When I first started out, I was doing what I used to do in my employment for a couple of years, and then COVID kind of redirected me, shall we say. And I think that's the thing in my life is that when my path gets very difficult, I think it's the angels redirecting me and going, no, you're not doing, you've learned everything you need to from that. Let's go the other way. Um, and I'm very stubborn, Susie. So sometimes they have to make my path very difficult. And I think that was my breakdown at the beginning was extremely difficult. I was now looking back on it, I can see I was in a job that I no longer loved, no longer fulfilled me. I had loved it at the beginning. I thought I was doing really useful work, connecting with communities and doing what needed to be done to help them help themselves. But I'd grown past my usefulness, shall we put it like that? Um, and I was no longer being as effective as I could be, and I needed to move on and do something else. So the stress became too much, and it was the funders had changed. So although I worked for a local council, it was a funded post, and the funders had changed how they did things. Whereas before it was all about, are we changing hearts and minds, and are we reaching the right people, and are we having the right sorts of conversations? Now it was how many people are in the room.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It was no longer about the quality of the conversation. It was, is there 10? And in Northern Ireland, it was, are there five of them and five of the others?
mm-hmm.
And I was like, that wasn't me. It was about the quality of the conversation for me. And it all just became very, very stressful. And I had my breakdown, and it was like everything aligned all of a sudden. I'd started doing a meditation, and it was about abundance. And I thought I was going to ask for money so that I could not no longer work. And on the morning that it started, it was 21 days with Deepak Chopra. And on the morning that it started, I actually just asked for health. And that was a real light bulb moment for me, realizing just how ill I had become.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't, when you just keep going, when you're as stubborn as me, you just keep going and you just, I really didn't realize just how ill I was until that moment. It was like, oh wow. When I'm lying in bed going, I just want to be well again. It's like, okay, something needs to change. And then everything, you know how the universe, angels, God, whatever you want to call it, source works, everything then just once you get to that point, they go, okay, here, we're going to help you. Here's all this. And I suddenly got an appointment. I'd made an appointment to see a kinesiologist, and it was like a 4 month wait. And that day they phoned me to say, we have a cancellation for later today. Would you like to see us? And I was like, yes, please. And that all happened on the Monday. That it was fabulous. Um, I ended up going off sick and actually never went back to work because I couldn't. I went back for about a week or two and my blood pressure just skyrocketed and things. because I hadn't learned all the tools that I put in the book. And that's the reason for the book, is that when I was off ill, I went to the Northern Trust had funded a program called Stress Control.
Right.
And I think it was 12 sessions done over 6 weeks. So you were doing two modules in a night. And I came away from that going, gosh, everybody should know this stuff. Because if we all knew how to, the technical term is called regulate, if we all knew how to regulate, our lives would be so much easier. Why are we not, why do we have to get ill? And maybe it's a thing of, we have to get that ill for us to listen.
Yes.
Maybe if we are taught it as children, we don't really. But I think in the same way that you learn to brush your teeth or learn to tie your shoes, if somebody was doing it with you often enough when you're a child, it would just be part of who you are. But because it's not something we're taught, because we don't know, then we end up being very ill and then getting told the information. And I was kind of like, why does everybody not know this stuff? But it was another couple of years before. So I worked, first of all, still as a good relations officer, or good relations consultant in my own business. And then COVID happened. And at that point I retrained and started doing all of this. So I'm an emotional well-being coach. And I go out to groups and I teach them some of the skills that are in that I go out and teach them about meditation and sleep and breath work and all that good stuff, to try and teach them how to regulate, to recognize what's going on in their own body. Because I think that's the bigger problem, is we don't necessarily scan our bodies to know, and we get to the end of the day and we come home, and unfortunately we then take it out on the people around us, and we don't do it intentionally. But you're starting making the dinner and somebody goes in and goes, can I have a piece of toast? And you go, and then afterwards you're like, oh, where did that come from? Do you know? Because you haven't been scanning and dealing with the stress as the day's gone on, and then you take it out on the people closest to you. So that's me. A lot of illness that led up to me retraining. And then, because I have this, everybody should know this stuff, at some point I thought, I need to write all this down and put it in one place. And I know there's lots of information out there, but everybody sells it slightly differently, and everybody has a different type of relationship with it. And if somebody gets even one tool from that book and uses it regularly to help themselves, job done.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting that my journey started in 2018 as well, because I was ignoring all of the signs.
As we do.
I did the Deepak Chopra thing as well.
Wow. There you go.
There are so many synchronicities that we're seeing in life now, and there's an awful lot of people, and a friend of mine in New Zealand, we've just followed the same path. It's like really peculiar and odd that so many of us have gone down this same pathway. And I think that we've all had the opportunity to leave this planet, but we've stayed because we're resilient. Yes. And we know that we have a purpose. And this is something that you have is in here, cultivating resilience. And all of the things that you talk about in here are all the steps to resilience and taking responsibility. I think we both failed at that, taking responsibility. We put other people's needs before ourselves. Yeah. And I know the toast story really, really well. I'm cooking dinner. Why ever do you want toast just before you're about to eat? And you blow like a pressure cooker, and you think that was absolutely out of order, and your family have to be very tolerant of people like that are in this place of distress where we found ourselves. So if anybody's got themselves in this position, or if anybody is living with somebody in this position, get them this book. To get them to cultivate resilience in a really strategic way. And we're 6 years on now, aren't we, both of us? And life, life had lots of ups and downs, hasn't it? But I'm sure that the keys in this book, like meditation and stress management and regulating yourself and what did you call it? Scanning yourself. All of those things help us to be a resilient human being. And you also talked then about your guiding light, your, I don't know, angels, guides, whatever you call them. And sometimes, and often it's my mother's voice for me. You know, she will, you know, if I'm lost when I'm doing something, she'll say, "Oh, do this." Or if I'm driving and I'm struggling with anything, my dad will jump in and say, "Oh, do this." So, you know, we are never alone, are we? So take us through the book a little bit, will you? So that we've got some ideas. You've got 7 chapters in here. Have you got the book with you in front of you?
I haven't, I kind of, it's all in there, Susie.
Oh, thank goodness for that. So, take us through the book a little bit and tell
Okay.
us what's in it. Yeah.
So obviously there's a tiny little introduction that lets out, and it doesn't tell my story. And if you want to read what I call my strength story, it's on my website. So I don't lay out my story, but I lay out in the introduction why I wanted to do this, because I want everybody to be well, to be healthy in ourselves. And a lot of when we carry too much stress in our bodies, it actually makes us physically ill. So to be physically well, hello Oreo, to be physically well, we need our mental health as well.
Of course.
And then I just take you through the different steps. I wrote a program, so it's called Embrace a Journey to Wellbeing, because I wrote a program um, 3 or 4 years ago called Embraces, and it's emotions, which is all about the stress awareness and the scanning and so on and so forth, meditation, breathing, redirect, attitude of gratitude, caring, EFT tapping, and sleep. So they all appear in there in some way, shape, or form. So yes, the introduction then leads you into understanding your emotional landscape and what could be going on. And that's your stress awareness thing. That your little amygdala in your brain is like your fire alarm. And we have therefore this like negativity bias because it's always scanning the landscape to look for danger. So that because its job is to keep us safe. And it's a very, very elegant system. But in today's society where we're so stimulated by, I'm going to say you're out behind you and my colors and the colors, all the colors that are around us all the time, and the radio and the TV and Facebook and all the social medias, that we're overstimulated. So it's about understanding what's going on in our body. And then nurturing your emotional well-being. So doing things like meditation that if we're really, really stressed, you're not going to go, "Excuse me, Mr. CEO or my boss or my consultant, just let me have 10 minutes to meditate." But there are things like in those moments you're going to breathe or you're going to tap or you're going to do something that gives you immediate release.
Mm.
But if we want to nurture our well-being, then we're meditating, we're exercising, we're ensuring our sleep is right. We're putting in those steps every single day. The breath work and stuff I do every single day as well to increase. So we have an okay zone, and in that okay zone, we kind of everything happens. We should be happy and sad and excited and experience grief or whatever, all within that zone. But we can get bumped up out of it, or we can get bumped on down out of it. And nurturing our well-being actually increases that okay zone, that resilience zone. So the people that are what I would call worry warts, the people that are anxious about everything, their resilience zone or their okay zone is really, really narrow.
Mhm.
And your Zen Buddhist master, their resilience zone is really, really large,
Mm.
really deep. So by nurturing your emotional well-being, you're deepening that okay zone. Fostering connection and support. So that's looking outside yourself and saying, how can we connect to people that will support us either in the immediacy or in the long term? So it's about making connections, deep and meaningful connections with your family and your friends. And then what are the other support mechanisms? And it might be that you go to see a professional, or it might be somebody that you see for just 6 weeks in the immediacy for a particular issue rather than something that's going on long term. And then we're looking the next chapter. We're looking at embracing meditation, mindfulness, and gratitude.
Mm.
And those help you to deepen that resilience zone. And again, your mindfulness and your gratitude are things that you can do in the immediacy. Whereas meditation is one of those that deepens it over time. Um, if it's something that's happening right now, so if I'm flooded with a negative emotion because I start to think about the next appointment I'm having with my consultant or whatever, and you start to have those conversations in your head where, oh, he's going to tell me this and he's going to say that and he's going to be, and you kind of, I go, okay, what can I be grateful for right now? I can be grateful for how well I am
Mhm.
right now. And so there's probably no chance he's going to tell me all those negative things because I feel so well right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
Um, and that's strategically using gratitude to counteract these negative thoughts. And mindfulness is bringing you, so anxiety is kind of, to really, really, really oversimplify it. Anxiety is worrying about the future and depression is worrying about the past. Now that's a huge oversimplification, Susie, but just for these purposes. Mindfulness brings us right into the present,
Mhm.
right now. And in mindfulness is a bit of grounding as well. So I do a lovely exercise, and you and Oreo can try it with me. And you've got the extra added benefit of Oreo sitting on your knee. So you just sit back in your chair and allow yourself to feel the back of your chair against your back. And anybody listening to this or watching this later, I'd love you to do it as well. Just feel the back of the chair. And then feel your legs in the seat. And then feel your feet in the floor. If you can put your back against the back of the chair and your feet in the floor at the same time. I can't without a wee foot to do it. Just feel how it feels. And for you, you have the extra benefit of Oreo. So what I want you to do is feel the weight of Oreo on your knee. And if she's leaning up against your chest, how she feels on your belly or your chest. And then just ask yourself, how do I feel in my body right now? So, Susie, tell me if you've noticed your back and your legs and your feet, how do you feel?
Very relaxed and very grounded, warm and at peace. And,
And
and
those are the sort of words.
yeah,
Sorry,
and
go ahead.
also, of course, holding on to fur and a relationship that's very powerful makes a huge difference as well,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah,
Value,
absolutely.
the value of connection with a smelly breath dog.
But even for those that don't have an animal on their knee, the words I look for when I'm teaching this in class is safe, secure, and supported. Because if you have the support of the back of the chair, even if it's a soft chair, you're still supported by the chair at your back, at your legs, and the floor at your feet. And those are sort of the words I'm looking for: safe, secure, and supported. So if you're feeling safe, secure, and supported right now in this moment, that can absolutely lessen the anxiety of thinking about the future because you're right here, right now. So that's why mindfulness to me is a huge tool. But if we do that, the more we practice that, again, the deeper we can create that we can cultivate that resilience and deepen that resilience zone.
Yeah.
Embracing change and growth. So they say there are only three things in life that we can absolutely be certain of: death, taxes, and change. And the rate of change, Susie, now is huge. It's huge. The amount of stuff that is and you and I were having a very brief conversation before we came on about AI, and the rate at which that is changing our lives can potentially change our lives if we allow it to. The amount, when I think of, there's a cracking photographs on Facebook and stuff like that, or social media, where it's the old TV, do you know, the ones that were that deep and kind of this size, and the child sitting and it's pressing the buttons, and that was the remote control. Well, that was me. I was the remote control. I sat at the end of the table changing the channel till we found something Daddy wanted to watch. Um, and things have changed now. We just wouldn't comprehend not having our phones in our pocket, or not. Whereas when we were children, you went out and you went to the next door neighbours or whoever, the neighbours up the street, to see was the child in, and could you all go out to play. There was no texting to see who's available. Sitting in rooms of silence, texting each other and giggling about the same things rather than talking about them. And anyway, Right, that's not a judgment call. It's a different generation, and things will change, but it's just the speed with which things change. So if we don't embrace the change, it becomes really uncomfortable and very, very difficult for us. So it's about learning how to embrace the change and to grow and to thrive with that change rather than getting left behind or feeling really uncomfortable and and having really difficult emotions
Yeah.
because things are changing. And it's not always easy. Sometimes the change is not something that we would have foreseen or we would have thought would have been good for us. And again, that's where the gratitude can come in hugely.
Absolutely. And
Um,
I think
and then we're into the
worldwide,
conclusion. Pardon me?
I do think worldwide changes are not all for the good. And it's how you manage, like for me in AI, yes, I think with everything, if you control it and you're in control of it, it's fine. It's when you're not in control of it. And there's an awful lot of anxiety and depression at the moment because of what's happening internationally and worldwide
Yeah.
that you cannot be comfortable with. So I think that, how Embrace teaches you is that you can be comfortable with you,
Yeah.
and what is going on, you might not want to embrace it. There's a lot I would not embrace, but it doesn't stress me. It doesn't cause me anxiety. I'm able to stand back from it, and so but not feel anxious. And I think that is when this is valuable, because the skills you're teaching in here enable me to stand back and not take things personally and not
Personally.
get involved in it and not be anxious about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think for me, what you're talking about there, yeah, don't embrace the stuff that's out there, but embrace your boundary coat. Put your
Yes.
boundary coat on and go.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't have sympathy, I don't have empathy, I'm not concerned, but I would be overwhelmed. So we've had this conversation yesterday at one of my EFT tapping classes where I was saying, I don't watch the news.
Yeah.
And my husband will come in and go, did you hear? And I'd be going, no. Or somebody will say something, and I say to my husband, what's going on with it? And he goes, well, this one resigned, that one took over, that one's been promoted, that one's, and I'm like, what? When? And he goes, in the last week. Where have you been? And I'm going, no, I didn't see any of that. and it's but it doesn't directly affect me. And I think, well, if something directly affects me, somebody will tell me. Somebody, if I'm meant to be wearing a mask or not meant to be wearing a mask or not meant to be going out after a certain time of night, somebody will tell me. I don't need to, and there's so much that we can do so little about. And things that would really upset me, aggression, neglect, childhood abuse, things like that. That would upset me so much that I kind of just then, there's a beautiful meditation called a metta meditation, which is loving kindness. And you send it out to kind of, you feel it for the person or the animal that you love the most, so that you feel that loving kindness in your body. And then you send it out to your immediacy, and then a little bit wider and a little bit wider. So what I do is I kind of throw a whole bubble around the whole world and ask all the angels to do whatever it is that they need to do within that bubble to help look after everybody. Because I can't take it on, Susie. It would absolutely wreck me if I was to read the news or watch the news every night and see some of the stuff that people are going through. I just couldn't cope with it. So I don't. And it's not that I'm ignoring it. It's not that I'm naive. I'm not burying my head in the sand. I know it's happening, but I don't need to invite it into my living room every single night.
I agree. And we've not had I had a television for a short period of time when my family lived with me years and years ago, but we don't have TV. We don't. If I can't touch it, I can't change it. So I'm not interested in the drama of the world. I genuinely am not. I'm not interested in any of it because I cannot change it. I focus my energy on what I can change, and I embrace the people I can connect with and that I can support. And I take that way down, sort of the road down to I don't support large charities. I support people in my community. I support people that I know that need that charitable support. So I think that we can withdraw from all of that stressful stuff. I remember many, many years ago when I was a child, and one of my mother's friends was very, very anxious about the Biafran children that were being put on TV screens all the time. And it was shocking. It was horrific. It was horrendous. And I know today that I'm sure TV is full of those images of war and desperateness and separation. And it's no wonder that it's generating anxiety and depression and feeling like you have no control. And the truth is you don't. You haven't. So we can only touch those we can touch. And first we have to do this. We have to go here.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this, because then we've got the emotional resilience that this book teaches you to actually manage our own lives. And that once we don't get caught up in drama, we can teach other people how not to get. And this is our story, isn't it? Our pains brought us to where we are today, that we can teach others how to navigate life when it's overwhelming. So that they hopefully learn from our mistakes.
Don't have to go through it themselves, and for a lot of people, it's not, again, a lot of the people that I would say they've got to a place of illness, but you're hoping that they get through it a little bit quicker than I did. They learn from you a little bit earlier than, that they don't have to be made quite so ill for quite so long before they change how they react to things, but also younger. So I'm seeing a lot of young mums.
Yes.
And if I'm reaching them, then you're reaching the babies.
Yes.
Because they will start to teach. And I teach them how to teach, because you're not going to meditate in the same way with a 2-year-old as you do for yourself. So I teach them how to do tapping with children, or meditate with children, or all of these things, gratitude with children, so that they're then able to teach them at a younger and younger age. Because if we can pull them, I can't remember the quote, there's a way of saying this, and I'll probably get it wrong, but instead of pulling people out of the pool that we're in, let's go upstream and stop them getting into the river in the first place.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know, and if we can teach the children how to regulate with themselves, we can stop them getting into the river in the first place. And that's
absolutely. And I mean, I don't know how many years ago, 10 years ago, actually, I was writing a program called Healthy in Mind, and I delivered it to primary school, one primary school who allowed me to do it, and no other school would allow me to do it. So there is a great need for exactly what you're talking about, is to support the young children that are coming through, because they're coming through with far more knowledge than we came through. You came through with far more knowledge than I came through, because there's a generational difference here. And it's like children of today, when they were in source energy as spirits, which is limitless, they could think of a toasty and it would turn up, as it were, And children today can't quite grasp the speed that everything takes to happen. Yes. They think it should be immediate, because they're still very much in their soul energy of unlimited belief in life and love and excitement and thrill. And if we can stop educating them to disbelieve all that they know, that in itself would change things, because we are all the most powerful, incredible, unique creations. Every one of us does not need to ever experience what we're experiencing. And it really is only the systems and the culture that prevents us being who we are.
So absolutely.
we have to unveil ourselves of this. And this is a fantastic book that enables us to unveil ourselves of the programming of being anxious about, as you say, the future that may or may not ever happen, or worried about the past that we can do damn all about, really.
Yeah, we can learn from it, but that's all we can do.
And
That's
this,
the only thing we can do.
and this is where we stand, is that we've learned from our mistakes.
Yeah.
And the work that we're both doing is about how, like for this podcast, is everybody who's listening to it, you can learn from your mistakes. You know, they aren't a bad thing. Might be shocking, might be terrifying. I don't know, but you know, certainly our story wasn't easy.
Yeah.
But it's like the phoenix rising from the ashes, isn't it?
Yeah.
That we are, and we invite you to rise from the ashes of your life, and join us. We both do things that you can always join in, and this is really inexpensive, this book, isn't it? I know I bought it, but I just pressed play, so can't remember how much it is in
It is. Well, I tried to make it so that I think I went for the cheapest option I could. So there's an ebook as well, which is only 77p, and that was the lowest option they gave me. There wasn't a make it free, unfortunately. And the book is $4.99, and in the back of the book I've put in some what if pages. I have a lovely wee thing that I've never seen anybody else do, that I created, called What If. And you write the negative stuff down on the outside of the page. It's right at the very back, Susie. Yeah, that's it. So you write the negative stuff on the outside of the page. So that, thinking of the conversation with the consultant, or the meeting with the boss, or whatever. Then on the inside of the page, you write all the positive stuff that could go. So the consultant could say, well, actually, there's no evidence disease, or there's, your bloods are looking so much better this month, or whatever. And then you cut the negative side out. So it means you end up with a book that's filled with half pages, but it's all positive stuff. And so you can keep going back and reinforcing every time you get a negative thought. You can go back. So you don't need to keep, and you've all these lovely positive ideas on the inside of the page. Yeah. So it ends up half pages
yeah. Okay.
of all positive stuff.
Excellent.
It's such a simple tool.
Yeah.
But hugely life-changing. Hugely life-changing. It's based on, I've seen lots of people do it, lots and lots of therapists do it, where you do worry time, and you do 5 minutes of worry time at the end of the day. It's based on that, but let's put the positive stuff in there, and let's take the negative stuff out, and just keep the positives. And again, you're not ignoring what's going on. You're absolutely, and you're allowing your little amygdala to get it all out, and to tell you what it's frightened about. But you don't have to hold on to it.
Absolutely. And I think that I sort of have a bit of an issue with journaling. I create journals. So hold on a minute. You're going to listen to this. Hopefully I'll make some sense of my dichotomy. I have a difficulty around journaling when we write all of that pain. I think you need to write all of that pain. I don't.
Yeah, you absolutely do.
But my problem is that if you keep it, then it's the vibrational energy of that negative story stays in your environment.
Yep.
So I used to teach my children to write it on scrap paper, just on a copy paper. And then we used to go out and burn it, which is great when you're a kid, get the match on it, into the fire bin.
Very safely. Very safely.
Right? And you can watch all of that negativity, all the smoke go away, and all you're left with is a bit of ash.
Yeah.
Then you come back and you get your journal, and you write all of the grateful things, the positive things, the amazing things, and how you feel now that you've got rid of all that. So this is a really beautiful way of doing exactly that, isn't it? Is actually to cut it out. And that is like deleting a program online. So if you don't write it and you type it, delete it.
Delete it. So, and one of the reasons I like it on the same page is that a lot of people that would come to me are, and probably you, Susie, as well, are so stuck in the negative story
Mm.
that they go, their positive bit stays really blank because they can't think of anything. They can't get past this. And that's why I'm saying if you put it by side, the positive stuff is usually the exact opposite of the negative. And
Yeah.
that's why I like them side by side. So it gives them a clue. Because if you say to somebody, when I'm going, well, what do you want your life to be like in 5 years' time? The first answer they go, I don't know. That's not, I don't know. Because whatever's going on that has brought them to me is so overwhelming or so negative or so dark that they just can't see the light. They can't see the positivity, and they can't see that what would life be like without this. And it
Absolutely.
is that drawing out what is the exact opposite. Well, if you're so, and people, you go, what do you want? They'll say, I don't want to be sick.
Mm.
And I turn that around and go, so you want to be healthy. And it's teaching people. And for me, then, if you have the negative and positive right beside each other, it's just writing the exact opposite of the negative, whipping it out. And for me, I do. Yes, I tell people, go outside and burn it in your barbecue or your chimney or in your sink very, very safely.
Let's
Please,
say.
very safely.
Absolutely. And I think because of my whole career and too many stories, I work content free because I don't want them to embed their story again.
Yeah.
And I know that I carry my stories, and every day I look for signs of my stories, signs of my
They all do.
dogma, the signs of my belief system that is no longer serving me, but it's so embedded and ingrained in every cell of my being, I have to search for it.
Yeah.
And I think if we all just stop for a moment, and this is your wonderful mindfulness, isn't it? Stop for a moment and think, whatever do I think that? Why do I think that? Who's told me to think that?
Who taught me
I'd
that? Yeah.
sooner those questions than repeating my story.
And I
Or
would add to that the next question, who taught me it, does it still serve me?
absolutely, yeah. And then it's like, okay, stop telling your story.
Yeah.
And very often those stories that we believe about ourselves are the words that people spoke to us.
Absolutely. They're not
And when
ours.
they
Yeah.
spoke them out of anger or frustration, they embedded in us like poison that or a cancer that just keeps growing and growing. So we need to go to books. There are lots of different ways, as you say, but you're not going to get much better for so little price to
Thank you.
just give you that step off the ground, that one degree of change that we all need every day to become the magnificent, marvelous person we actually are again, as we take all the onion layers off. So, Valerie, it's been absolutely delightful to chat with you. I know that people will have enjoyed this when they've read it and when they listen to this. And I hope you will go and buy this book, give it away, stocking fillers, leave it on I don't know, leave it wherever you go. That's a way of using charity, isn't it? Buying something like this and then putting it in the doctor's surgery for somebody to pick up. And you can put a little stick on it, help yourself, take it home. There are lots of ways to make a difference. And that's just one, or gifting an ebook to somebody for 77 pence. Goodness gracious me. What can you buy for 77 pence these days?
Not a lot anymore. In our day, you got to get 10p mix, but not the rest now.
I
Not a
go
lot for
before
77p.
decimalisation. So it was my pocket money was sixpence, which was 2.5 pence.
But even then, when I came along, Susie, you'd have got like a whole pile of blackjacks or fruit salad for that. You've even for 2.5p. Whereas now, I don't even think you would get one fruit salad or jackpot.
No, I know. I'm vegan, and but I was absolutely passionate about Lurpak butter, and I can't bear margarine or anything like that. So I cut out the middleman and just pour oil on my bread, olive oil on my bread. Anyway, I was in the shop the other day, and I don't do shopping very often either. And there was some low fat butter, £4.50. I nearly fell. I just could not believe that's how expensive it was. When I was a child, I used to go to the local co-op, and I'd say, can I have however many ounces of low fat butter my mother wanted? And they would literally chop it off a block and wrap it in greaseproof paper. So, you know, the world is, as you rightly said right at the beginning, change. And was it all good when I was young and when you were young? No. But, you know,
I grew up in Belfast.
Well,
Definitely not.
Definitely not good. I feel very protected by my childhood in so many ways. Valerie, it's been an utter joy to spend time with you.
Thank you, Susie.
About everything and how the book fits into every part of life, really. So I wish you the very best of luck. Down for everybody else, down below, all of the notes, how you get in touch with Valerie, and how you can have some emotional well-being coaching with her. And anyway, have a look below. Please like and subscribe. And the reason for it is nothing egoic about this. It's just the more you do that, the more people get to see this. And this is valuable, life-changing stuff. My tribe, everybody that I choose to spend time with, want one thing, and that is the new earth, which is about unity and about love, without poverty, without homelessness, without hunger, and without wars. So that's what we're about. And anybody on this program is about that too. So share it. Just be generous by liking it, subscribing, and sharing it. And you are doing such an amazing job for nothing. So thank you very much, Valerie, for your time, for your love, what you're doing for the world. And I will see you soon. I've got more guests coming onto the show. So thank you for being here.